Here's an incredible blue beauty, all lace and tulle. I'm going to tell you about the problems with it. This young lady wants to go to her sorority dance in this dress that is largely bodice lace and significant skirt tulle and satin underlay. Now, at the fitting, it seemed like this bodice was too tight. And when looking at the side seams, well, really there are no side seams, not in the lace part. There is in the lining, which is just more delicate tulle. So it could have been let out that way, but the lace would never have been forgiving enough to do that. Now, what would I do in the instance if we had to take this in? I want to remember to tell you all about that before we move on. Well, we would be able to take in this seam. Wouldn't be very much fun because it's so delicate, but you could do it. And how would you handle the lace? Well, you'd have to scrunch it in, make a seam. It can be done by detaching the skirt a ways here, beyond the seam. The side seam is what I'm saying. Then you would neatly scrunch that in once you got inside here. So, that's as much as I'm going to say about that. I don't want to leave you in a quandary about how it would be handled. Sometime down the line, I'll really for sure run into that situation, and I'll show you. But for now, let's just be glad we didn't have to take it in. And yet, we still have the problem of letting it out. Finally, after much consternation about what we were going to do, we realized the ribbon that was covering the expanse of the bodice here, there was a ribbon, it was too tight. And all I had to do was clip it right here on both sides and get that thing off. And she's just going to go and find herself some even better ribbon, bring it back, and I'll put it on for her. So, relief on that score. However, we have plenty of skirt to deal with. This tulle goes on forever. There's 2 layers of it. Then there is the satin underskirt, which is actually 2 pieces sewn together down at the bottom. In the end, these will be 2 separate pieces, which is of no consequence. So, let's get started. So what that means, interestingly, is that there won't really be all that much sewing to this project, because with tulle, all you do is cut. There is no machine work on it. It's going to be a lot of cutting though. And then of course I'll use my rolled hem attachment, which I'm going to show you, on the satin layers. So let's begin. Okay, as promised, here's how we're going to finish the hem on the powder blue dress. Remember, nothing need be done on the tulle. You might want to finish any seams though, just like you need to for sure do on the lining seams. Since you cut through here moments ago, just taking a few stitches forward and back down at the bottom of the seam. Why? Because when you come and deal with the hem now, the rolled hem, whether you use the rolled hem attachment or not, as you would go to fold this, it puts a little stress on the strain, and by now it would have separated. But because it's reinforced, it's all ready to go. Without using that rolled hem attachment, here's what you would do. Roll it by hand yourself. Roll it once, roll it twice, get kind of a long stitch going on your machine with a slender needle. Position everything, forward a few, back a few, and then keep going forward. Now on this particular dress with the satin underlay skirts, you're probably going to do all right this way, but it can get tedious when you get to curves. and it can be tedious to make it look really great underneath here. So let's go a little ways and I'll show you what I mean. See, I'm just going to run into trouble here as I come to this major bias curve. So far, so good. It doesn't look too badly here. And I know I keep knocking the camera. Please forgive me. But as I get to the bias curve here, I was just going to run into trouble of it's rolling very neatly and therefore looking neatly on the outside. So here's what I like to do instead of manually rolling all this myself. Instead of a regular presser foot, use this rolled hem presser foot. What's unique about it is this curlicue in which and through which the fabric gets fed, as I'm going to show you shortly. So attach it. Most machines will be like this, just kind of a little drop down upon that bar. Make sure you refer to your manual and your particular rolled hem device that you get. Now it's on. Make sure you practice plenty on scrap, but basically this is what you do. Start at a side seam and at the most bottom skirt so that you can get a feel for the situation. And yes, just like as if you were rolling it yourself, you do have to roll it yourself to get started with the rolled hem presser foot. Start backwards, forwards, and right about the time you get past the side seam, needle down, presser foot up, and then scrooch the fabric into that curlicue feeder. Now you're still going to want to roll ahead. Now put the presser foot back down. You're still going to want to kind of roll ahead of the foot, but the foot just feeds everything in so nicely. Here's how it looks so far. Nice and neat. Now it's not that you can't run into trouble at a bias curve with a rolled presser, with a rolled hem presser foot. You can, you certainly can. It's just not quite as bad as the other way. So when you get to a major bias curve, just go a few stitches at a time, fold ahead a little bit at a time. Now here it looks like it won't fold in very neatly. Let's see if it does. It usually will. Yeah, and I got lucky and it just folded right in. So kind of just keep making your way along like this. And if you're like me, you're going to fall in love with this rolled hem presser foot. Okay? This would be a good time to mention that you always want to allow a 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch extra below whatever the length of the hem is that you've determined. So what that means is if a hem needs to go up 6 inches, you cut only 5.5 inches or 5 3/8 inches off your skirt, and that leaves enough for you to roll up. Just add that 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch to the length of whatever you're cutting off, and then just roll it like this, either by hand or with your device. And this was the time to mention that. Now I'm just rounding the bend of a bias curve, and I'm going to come to a side seam. I want to show you how to handle a side seam. Here's that side seam, or really any seam I should say. Okay, so I'm right up to it. Now I found with this particular material, usually the foot will go right through, especially if the seam is facing you. If it was facing away from me, well then it would be jamming up against the seam and not go through. But I'm going to demonstrate on this seam how I think it's going to go through. Will I be lucky? Let's see. You have to kind of coax it through, but it went right through. The next seam I run into, I'm going to show you what to do when you can't coax it through. Okay, here I am. I'm almost up to a seam. And by the way, I pin most of my seams. I pin them into place so that as I approach them, the side seam can't get askew on me. Anyway, here I am. At the side seam. So now let me get right up to the seam. Okay, the toe just hit the seam, so I'm going to put needle down, press her foot up, and then I'm going to scrooge out the material, plunk that foot right back down, and then ride over. Sometimes it doesn't go over very neatly, but it'll be good enough. And then when you get to the other side, needle down, press your foot up, scrooge that fabric right back in there, which I guess I didn't make it so you could see. Scrooge it right back in there. And ever onward. And you'll be just fine. Your hems are probably going to come off the machine a little raw looking, but that can always be fixed very nicely with a good press. Just like that. Here we are on the satin layer, and we're going to make that look nicer too. The bias curve sometimes presses up a little funny. There. Pretty sweet. Okay, once we get done with the pressing, we're all finished. Good job.